I always make edible gifts for my friends and family, and they are going to love my pistachio Linzer cookies. So the first thing I'm gonna do is make my sugar cookies. I have 1 cup of softened, unsalted butter here, and I'm gonna add it to my stand mixer. And now I'll add a cup of sugar. And now I'll add 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I'm gonna cream together the butter and the sugar for a few minutes until light and fluffy. This is pale and fluffy, and now I'm ready for the egg. And I'm gonna crack it into a little bowl first because it's so much easier in case I get a little bit of shell in here to fish it out from this bowl. And then I'll also grab vanilla and almond extract. I'll add 1½ teaspoons of vanilla extract and ½ teaspoon of almond extract. I'm gonna add 3 cups of flour gradually. I don't want it to fly everywhere from the mixer running. And once this first cup of flour is mostly combined, I can add my second cup. The dough is looking great. I'm gonna scrape down the sides to make sure all of the ingredients, like this flour and the butter that's sticking, get incorporated into the dough. I'll dust the top of the dough with flour. And then I'm gonna roll out this dough so that it's about 3/16 of an inch. Don't be afraid to get out your ruler. And now I'll use an offset spatula to transfer the cookies to the cookie sheet. Now, whenever I'm making Linzers, I cut out the top cookies first because once I cut out my stars, I'll use those scraps to then re-roll to make the bottom cookies. So I'm gonna cut stars out right from the center of the cookies. Now I'm gonna re-roll my scraps to cut out the bottom cookie. You never wanna waste cookie dough. And just like the top cookies, I'll roll out this dough until it's 3/16 of an inch thick, and then I'll cut out my bottom circles. They're gonna bake now at 350 for 10 minutes until they're just set, but still pale. They are gonna make the tastiest homemade gifts. I'm gonna let them cool while I make my white chocolate pistachio filling. This filling is beautiful for the holidays. It's sweet and chocolatey, and it's a departure from traditional Linzer jam filling, but I love the way it hardens. It makes these cookies sturdy enough for shipping. I have some white chocolate chips here that I'm gonna melt in my double boiler. And I'll stir it with a spatula as it melts to make sure that it's really smooth and melty. Now I'm gonna tint it with a couple of drops of green food coloring to enhance the color of the pistachios. Oh, that's a perfect pistachio color. And now I'll add ½ a cup of finely ground pistachios. I'll grab one of the circle cookies and add a nice plop of the filling right to the center, and then I'll spread it around all the way out to the edge. And then I'll grab one of the star cookies and smush it right on top. And then I'll sprinkle on some of my crushed pistachios. And I have pretty gold stars, perfect for the holidays. Just like that. How adorable.
This is a really easy dough to make. I make it in an electric mixer fitted with a paddle attachment. First I put in 3/4 of a pound of room temperature butter. Then I add 1 cup of sugar and a teaspoon of good vanilla. Add 3½ cups of all-purpose flour. And finally, 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. Turn the mixer on low and just mix the ingredients until they just come together. Turn the dough out into a floured board and shape it until it comes into a flat disc. Wrap the disc in plastic wrap and chill in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes. So this is the shortbread dough. It's been chilled, and I'm gonna roll it out and make cookies. This is a really great dough, particularly because it's so flexible. I can make all different kinds of star shapes, and this time, I think I'm gonna cut it in half. It's a lot of cookies for just Miguel and me. And the good news is I can freeze the other half for the next time he shows up. And actually, I even flour the rolling pin. There's no point in making cookies if they're gonna stick to the board. So I'm just gonna roll this out about 1/2 inch thick. Okay, ready for the cutter. So this is the sort of finger shape that I wanna make. And just cut each cookie. Sometimes it's hard to come out of the cutter, but you just tap the edge on the board and it'll just come right out. So I'm using half-sheet pan parchment paper. Keeps the pan clean, the cookies bake better. I love parchment paper. These are going to be delicious cookies. Just a little bit of sugar on the top. Just gives them a little bit of sparkle when they come out of the oven. And then I'm going to bake them 350 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes until they just start to brown on the edges. Shortbread cookies dipped in chocolate. Now, who would have a problem with that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shave some chocolate. I'm using semi-sweet chocolate, just enough for 10 cookies. If I do it in chunks, it's not going to melt right, so it's important to just take your knife and just shave it off. First, I'm going to put half the chocolate in a bowl and microwave it. "30 seconds. Okay, let's see how it's doing. So the first bit of chocolate's melted, and now what I want to do is add the rest of it and just melt it right in. And what this does is keep the temperature from getting too hot. When chocolate's melted and not tempered, it gets that sort of bloom where it's sort of gray. Not very pretty. You want really glossy, delicious chocolate. So that's just going to melt right in. Okay, time to dip the cookies. So the cookies are baked and cooled, and I'm just going to drizzle chocolate across the top of each one. Just half. I like the way it looks when it's both. Now, how good does that look? They'll be delicious with a tray of shortbreads dipped in chocolate. Dinner just doesn't get any simpler or better than this.
Todd loves chocolate. He's not going to be home very much longer, so I'm going to make him a batch of Saucepan Chocolate Cookies. Boy, oh boy, am I loving this recipe these days. They are so easy to make, and these cookies are incredible. So one thing that's great about saucepan cookies is you don't have to wait for butter to soften. That's one of the impediments to making cookies at the drop of the hat. You usually have to somehow soften the butter. In this case, I am melting the butter in a saucepan, just one stick, and I'm using salted butter. And just like that, this stick of butter is not only melted, it's starting to sizzle. So as you can imagine, saucepan cookies are made in the saucepan. So I'm gonna add 2 kinds of sugar to the melted butter, brown sugar and powdered sugar. And this is great because you can mix everything in stages, just keep dumping things in. So I'll whisk until all the sugar is pretty much dissolved into this yummy, sizzly melted butter. And then just the act of whisking the sugar and butter together cools it enough that you can drop in 1 egg, but you want to keep kind of whisking the whole time just so the egg never has a chance to sit in those warm ingredients for too long. So once you've gotten the egg totally incorporated, it's time to add the first stage of chocolate. Now I've got dark chocolate chips, and I'm going to sprinkle them in to this mixture. And the whole point of this stage of chocolate is to melt it into these warm ingredients. And it's happening very, very fast. This may become my go-to cookie method. After years and years of having to kind of drag out the mixer and soften the butter and have patience, all these different vessels, wet ingredients, dry ingredients, there's something so beautifully simple about this. So I'm also going to add some vanilla. The cool thing is it's all the same ingredients that you use to make cookies the regular way. It's just the method is the only thing that's different. Alrighty, so the vanilla is mixed in. So now it is time for the dry ingredients. Just all-purpose flour and baking soda. I've also got some sea salt. I love that salty, sweet vibe, especially with chocolate cookies. Now at this stage, I think I'm going to switch to the rubber spatula. It's just easier to fold the flour into the mixture. Okay, this is about as smooth and wonderful as it can be. Look at this cookie dough, by the way. Wow. Now I'm going to scoop the dough onto 2 cookie sheets. I'm going to use a scoop just so they're all the same size, and then I'll dot the tops with more chocolate chips. I'm going to bake these beautifully chocolate cookies at 350 degrees for 12 minutes. Then I'll take them out and let them cool. All right, here they are, chocolate saucepan cookies, an absolute revelation of a cookie method. So I'm gonna get these to Todd later before his football practice. And for that reason alone, I'm gonna be Todd's favorite person today.
Gooey, Cafeteria, chocolate chip cookies. Couldn't be any easier, Sonny.
You know I love cookies on tap.
Sonny, you are my sous chef. This is the easiest sous chef job.
Yeah?
Okay?
What am I doing?
Add
Just
the baking soda to the flour and whisk it. But before you do that, as an homage to my best friend, Alex Guarnaschelli, why don't you sift?
You want me to sift it?
Okay, wait.
Yeah, I got you a sifter here.
Now,
so you
when
can
I
sift
make-
the,
Jeff,
sift the
when I-
baking soda.
When I make a sandwich, I think about it a lot differently because of you.
Really?
Yes, I do. I'm like, oh my
Same.
God, there's a piece of the bread that's not covered. The ratio's
I
off.
repeat in my mind, crust to crust is a must. I
I do too.
swear to God,
Is
when
it
I'm
great?
doing this,
It's working.
Yeah, it's a mind warmer.
You're
We all-
inside,
You're
you're
in
inside
our
my
brain.
brain.
As we say, it lives rent-free in our head.
Wow.
Okay, well, my job is done, Jeff. Make some
I'm sorry.
cookies.
I thought the sifting would at least add on a minute or
Took
so.
2
but-
seconds.
So now let me get on the wet ingredients here. So easy. Starting with, I think this is the key, and my wife Sarah always does this for each recipe, and that is browning the butter.
That's right.
All right, when you're making any chocolate chip cookie. So you've got our brown butter, cool it down a little bit. Let's add some nice light brown sugar in a bowl, some granulated sugar, right? We got 1 egg, and then some good old vanilla extract and that brown butter.
I've never browned my butter for cookies.
Neither have I. Not
Katie.
for cookies, but I will now.
Life-changing, Katie.
Life changing. Like
Really?
it mixes with that vanilla extract, and you get the caramely notes with the vanilla notes, and it just adds a dimension that you normally don't find, especially in a cafeteria, industrial grade cookie that we were all served.
This is why I love cooking with you guys, because like we all cook naturally, right? This is what we do. But then there are these little tweaks that can
Yep.
take our food to the next level, and to find them from a coworker.
Like,
is
just
awesome.
smell that already. Smell
Yeah.
that. Smell
Yeah.
just from
You
that
can
little
smell the
step
butter.
of gently browning your butter.
wow.
Smell
Yeah.
it. Go ahead.
So fragrant.
It
Yeah.
is. Look at that.
Cheesy.
All those little milk solids caramelized, get a little,
Wow.
right? I'm changing lives here. Not only
You
the crust to
are.
crust is a
Okay,
must,
Jeff,
but
I'm gonna try this.
brown your butter or bust.
Do you
Crust to
think-
crust is a must.
Do you think it's
Brown
your
bu-
headband? Do you
What's
think it's
that?
your headband?
Yeah, it's a little tight, I think.
It is a little
He's a
tight. I
little
feel a little
excited.
constricted.
Your ears
Okay.
are starting to fold.
All right, let's go.
So,
By the
Jeff,
way-
what I want to know, what does the headband and the Disneyland story, how does that tie into the cookies?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
You just
Jeff
wanted
just
to
likes
wear the
to show us old
headband.
photos. We're
I just
talking
like to
about
show you
back
old
in the
photos.
day. Yeah,
we're
this
just
is-
talking about back in the day, school
our
photos. You
childhood.
know
I
what
thought
I mean?
maybe there was a great chocolate chip cookie at Disneyland or something.
I have cookbooks from my mom that will say, stir 30 times.
Yeah.
It'll give you the amount of times you're supposed to, roll around that bowl. So pretty awesome.
No, this is, and also you don't want to overwork this cookie dough because the goal with this, much like those cafeteria cookies, gooey, we want the spread, and we're gonna plate it in a very fancy, special way. It's an homage to those days, but this is,
You're changing the cookie a lot
Yeah.
by not whipping soft butter in a mixer with
Yeah.
the sugars. That is what the
there's no
classic
air
cookie
being
is.
incorporated into this, right?
There
So
is-
it's gonna spread out. And then just to help kind of give it some, obviously you need chocolate chips. I like the mini chocolate chips in
Yeah,
this.
I'll take them.
Right?
Either the minis or when people break up the bricks and they have like nice chunks
I
instead.
like
Yeah.
a chunk.
Yeah.
I
I
can
do.
get into a chunk.
You know how we all love those big domed fancy cookies you get at all the bakeries these days? We don't want that for
No,
this
we want
application.
OG status.
We're gonna flatten them out and we're gonna bake them at 325 for about 10 minutes.
You're so excited.
Because
10
it's an
minutes.
odd, it's
Okay.
very, right? We want to hit them, we want gooey.
Yeah,
And they didn't have
undercooked.
time. You're feeding all these kids. You don't have time
They're
to do a
like, "Here's
proper
your
bake and rest. No, you make it as quickly as possible. You get the spread. You can smell that beautiful butter in the air.
Oh, that looks good.
And you have these little warm cookies here that we can do one more thing to, right? We're gonna get some
These are
flaky sea
freshly
salt.
hot. Yes, Jeff.
I mean, really,
Yes!
is there a better dessert than a hot chocolate chip cookie
No.
out of the oven?
That's why I
There's
say
not.
cookies on tap. You should always have cookie dough in your fridge.
Look at this.
Do you
Off
think-
the headband? Who does that? I do, because I do it for you,
An
America.
unsanitary
Do you
chef.
think a brownie is a close second? Can a brownie almost rival the chocolate chip?
No.
I'm feeling like it gets close
I think a
sometimes.
brownie
Scoop of
can get
vanilla
close.
melting over the
Oh,
brownie.
now you're talking.
I
and
love
a little
that.
drizzle of hot fudge.
But I mean, who's getting
Cookie
a
is
brownie
king.
a la mode in high school? That would not be
No,
good.
I love the paper plate.
So now you take it You can barely like get it off there, and you got to transfer it quick to the world's cheapest, thinnest paper plate. Not like the fancy stuff
Remember
that
we used
use.
to have those woven basket thingies that you would put them in to make them sturdy.
This is
Did you
your
guys have
time.
those growing
Europe.
up?
Oh, yeah.
It was like a
I remember that,
paper
yeah.
plate frame.
It was that's what you need. Like, you need to get, these were always served on paper plates where you couldn't just take one paper plate.
Yeah.
It would be a clump of paper plates.
All right,
That's-
let's look at the interior of
Yes,
this
that's
cookie.
breakage is important.
Oh,
Breakage.
yeah.
My God.
Look, it does have that kind of greasy finger feeling.
Yeah, that's why you always eat them with a plastic spoon, but
spoon.
I'm gonna do one better.
No, I'm going right for it.
Is there some
and
milk
you
around?
used mini chocolate chips too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Still warm.
That took you long enough, Jeff.
See,
Sorry.
Dang, I was being patient.
I like a doughy, chewy cookie.
That's very good.
For dessert, I'm making my hazelnut Gelt cookies, which are super thick and nutty and topped with sparkly chocolate coins. They are the perfect addition to your Hanukkah cookie box. To get started on my dough, I'll mix up my dry ingredients and I'll scoop in 1 1/3 cups of hazelnut flour, 3 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour, teaspoon of baking powder, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt. And I'll whisk this all together. So Hanukkah Gelt is chocolate coins that we eat on Hanukkah and play the dreidel game with. They're super nostalgic and really sweet and delightful. Just melted chocolate swirled into coins and topped with sprinkles and other fun stuff. And occasionally I'll plop those on top of cookies because I thought there are so many Christmas cookies in the world. We need more Hanukkah cookies, and these are just the ticket. Okay, I'll mix up my wet ingredients now. I'll get 1 cup of softened unsalted butter and combine this with 2/3 of a cup of granulated sugar and 2/3 of a cup of powdered sugar. Oranges due to hazelnuts, what presents due to Hanukkah. They just make everything better. So I'm adding the zest of 1 orange, and it's just gonna perk these flavors right up. I'll get this onto my stand mixer, beat it until it's light and fluffy. I'll crack my eggs and then add them 1 at a time, beating well after each. I'll drizzle in a teaspoon of vanilla. And now I can add my dry ingredients. I'll do this gradually so that they don't go flying everywhere. That hazelnut is really nice. This dough is coming together. The butter smells really good. And now my favorite thing about this cookie recipe, well, other than eating them, is that I don't have to refrigerate the dough before cutting out the shapes. You could if you wanted to. You could get ahead and stick the dough in the refrigerator, but I'm impatient. I just want to eat these really soon. So I'll grab a rolling pin and my baking sheet. I'll dust my counter with a little flour so the dough doesn't stick. Oh, this is such a pretty dough. Ready for this plot. I'll gather it up. Oh yeah, that's nice and soft. So I'm rolling this out gently and evenly, and I'll rotate it every so often to ensure that it's not sticking. If it is, I can just dust with a little more flour. Look at that. Oh, what a nice dough. To punch out my shapes, I've got a 2 1/2-inch circle cutter, and I'll just cut out my dough. That is the perfect thickness. Look at those clean edges. It's what I like to see in a cookie. I'll just keep punching out my circles and then spacing them 1 inch apart. Cha-ching! These cookies look rich. I'll get them in the oven now at 350 degrees for about 12 minutes until they are ever so slightly browned on the bottom. That will ensure that they're still soft in the middle. My cookies are cooling. They smell hazelnutty and amazing. And now I'm ready to make their homemade Gelt hats. I've got some white chocolate chips here that I'll melt in a double boiler. And I'll just stir this up as it gets melty and smooth. Okay, this is melted and smooth. I'm ready to decorate. So this is so easy. I'm gonna take a teaspoon of chocolate, dollop it in the center of one of my cookies. I'll swirl it around to make a coin. That is one valuable piece of chocolate money. And sprinkle on some sprinkles. Ta-da! Just like that. Okay, I'll decorate the rest. So much Hanukkah! All right, I'm going in. They're so soft and hazelnutty. That's my kind of currency.
cookie butter cookies, okay?
Cookie butter cookies.
Cookie butter,
made out of
CBC.
cookie butter.
You ready for this?
I'm ready to be
Alex, are you ready to make some cookies with me?
I am ready. I love cookies.
It's hard work you're gonna be doing over there. You gotta whisk. Okay,
All right,
go
let
gadget
me,
whisk
let me get in the
arm.
headspace.
Just 1 egg. There's some vanilla extract and some salt. Whisk it all together in the bowl. I've got a stick of butter in my stand mixer here. Just gonna hit it. This is the creaming part, right?
Yep,
You wanna
very
get the
important.
actual cookie butter in. Now, if you don't know what cookie butter is, AKA speculoos, it's going to remind you of a gingerbread cookie with lots of sweet cinnamon and warm spice, notes to it. Funny story, I bought some cookie butter cookies one time from a company, and I don't know, for some reason at the time, I couldn't have them delivered to my house. So I had them delivered to my friend's house. She likes them too, and I said, yeah, you can have a box. I literally didn't get any of them. She ate them all. Some brown sugar, some granulated sugar, okay? I'm gonna bring that down and mix it up. Well, the goal here is to really get the cream going. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of grains going on with the granulated sugar, the brown sugar. So we just want everything to be nice and smooth. It's gonna get a little bit lighter in color because the air is getting whipped into it. And so instead of being that deep brown color the speculoos was, it's gonna get this nice light color. And then I will put it back in there.
So important, scraping the sides while you're creaming, too.
It really, really is. Bring it all together.
And Sunny, I noticed that stick of butter was very room temperature.
Super room
Also,
temperature.
so-
All right, so to this, we're gonna
Never.
add that egg. Thank you. The vanilla extract. That little pinch of salt. Remember to turn down your mixer to as low as possible. Add the flour in, okay?
Oh.
Now that's gonna blend up. When that blends up, you're gonna get it into a plastic bag, plastic wrap, put it into the refrigerator, and then you're gonna bring it out and roll it up. But look, I've already got it rolled up right here. Just like this. Thank you, Alex.
I love cookies.
You're gonna roll it out just like, sugar cookies. And then get your actual cookie forms.
You got a little jersey.
Little jersey right here. Then we've got a football, and
Okay.
everyone loves that. We're number one.
Yeah.
We're number one. So that finger, you can get these at the party store, at the grocery store, in the baking aisle. I've got the oven set to 350 degrees. It's only gonna take 10 to 12 minutes for these to bake. Get them in there.
Smells so good. You
I
can
love
smell that.
cookies.
The
I gotta
cookie
tell
and
ya.
the cookie.
Nothing like a cookie and some beer before the game, And then here you have them. So they come out of the oven. You want to let them cool down, obviously, on a little bit of a wire rack.
Oui.
And then you just get some royal icing. You can buy it or make it, and then just start decorating so they actually look like what they should. I'll do this upside down. Just come around here.
Laces out.
Laces
This is
up.
something that kids would be into doing, too.
They really would.
Oh, wow, look at that artistry.
Have a little fun with it, and a little football right there. Here we go.
Oh, gorgeous.
Wow, you
we
were
have
fast.
more time, yeah. And here you go, guys.
Oh, pass them on down.
So
There
nice.
you go.
Oh,
I
passed out?
want a football.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the cookie and the cookie.
I love
Great having that
cookies.
taste of the cookie butter come through. It's like a slight hint of spice. And the cookie itself is so nice and chewy.
I've got 2 sticks of butter in the mixer with 2/3 a cup of sugar and 2/3 a cup of brown sugar. I'm gonna turn on the mixer and let it start to do the hard part. Okay, I'm gonna let that cream together for a couple minutes, and while it does, I'm gonna get started on chopping up some chocolate. Instead of using chocolate chips, I'm using big bars of baking chocolate. I've got 8 ounces of semi-sweet and 4 ounces of dark, so it's a really chocolatey cookie. I like to cut it into chunks. I just think chopped chocolate works so much better in chocolate chip cookies than pre-made chocolate chips do. They just melt so smooth and creamy. Okay, I've got most of that chopped up. There's a mix of big chunks and little bits. Okay, the butter and sugars are creamed together. So I'm gonna add 2 eggs, 1 at a time. This is a pretty basic chocolate chip cookie recipe. The more simple the recipe stays, the better. Okay, now to the egg and sugar mixture, I'm gonna add some vanilla. That looks good. So now it's time for the dry ingredients. Very, very simple. 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. That's a 2-cup measure. And then to the flour, I'm gonna add a teaspoon of baking soda and 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. I'm gonna sprinkle the tops of the cookies with sea salt, which makes them so delicious. So I don't wanna oversalt the dough. Okay, I'll just mix in the dry ingredients real quick. That looks great. Now I can add the chocolate. Trust me, you wanna get all of this in there. The big chunks are wonderful, but look at these little powdery bits that are left after chopping. I want all of that going in. It just kind of becomes part of the dough. And speaking of the dough itself is so good. Don't even start tasting it because you won't be able to stop. Okay, I'm gonna turn this on a little bit higher speed. I'm tired, I don't feel like mixing in this chocolate by hand. Done. Now I'm gonna scoop all the dough onto baking sheets. Okay, I got them all scooped up. Now before I bake them, I always like to sprinkle a little sea salt on the top. Now I'm gonna chill these for 20 minutes before I bake them. Okay, the dough's all chilled. Now it's time to bake the cookies. These next steps are simple. I'll put them in a 350-degree oven, bake them for 18 minutes, then take them out to cool.
I'm co-hosting a party for a crowd with my friend Susan Sterlman. So for dessert, I'm making fruitcake cookies. For anybody who doesn't like fruitcake, forget it. You'll love these. So I'm starting with 2 sticks of butter and 1/2 teaspoon of cloves. These are really spicy and they're just fabulous. 1/3 cup of brown sugar. When measuring brown sugar, you want it lightly packed. Not so firm that you can't get it out of the cup, but lightly packed. 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, white sugar. I'm just gonna cream that together until it's light and fluffy. So while that creams, I'm gonna show you the fruit and nut mix that I've been macerating for 8 hours so all the flavors blend together. I'll show you how I did it. So the mix has 4 dried fruits. First the figs, about 1/2 pound. Next, 1/4 pound of raisins, 2 ounces of candied cherries, and 2 ounces of dried apricots. Then for sweetness, a tablespoon of honey and 2 tablespoons of dry sherry. Doesn't this remind you of a mixture for fruitcake? This is so much better. For brightness, a tablespoon of fresh lemon juice and some nutty crunch from 6 ounces of pecans. Chop them roughly, and then they go into the mix. A pinch of salt, and then just let it sit for 8 hours until all those flavors blend together and the dried fruits all plump up. This looks great, and you can really taste the sherry. It's gonna be delicious. But these are for later. First, I'm gonna finish the batter. So the next thing I need, the butter and sugar nicely creamed, is 1 egg. I never put an egg directly into the batter because if it's a bad egg, you ruin the whole batter. Next, 2 2/3 cups of flour. Just lighten the flour with your cup and then level it off. You don't want to pack it down. And 2/3 cups. Just add it in on low speed. Pinch of salt, about 1/4 teaspoon, and the batter's done. Now I just have to add all the dried fruit. So all the pecans and candied cherries and raisins and apricots, figs, just fold them all right in. This is gonna be gorgeous. Now I'm just gonna divide the dough in half and put it right on this parchment paper. Schmutz it around and then roll it up. So I'm just gonna chill these cookies and then I'm gonna slice them and bake them before I head to Susan's house. Fruitcake cookies for a crowd. I love this recipe. All you do is slice and bake the cookies and people go crazy. In fact, I just keep the roll in the refrigerator and just slice and bake them whenever I want. But this time, I'm making them all. I'm just gonna cut them about 3/8 inch thick, should be perfect. There's so much flavor. Into the oven, 350 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes until they just start to brown. And then all I have to do is keep myself from eating them. Am I gonna be able to resist these? I don't think so. I have to make sure they're good, right? These are so good.
We are gonna be making my sugar cookie mini cakes. They're basically like three-dimensional sugar cookies, and they are so delicious and tons of fun to make. We're gonna be using some of my best baking tips to get you through the Christmas cookie season with minimal stress. So if you're baking along with me, make sure you have the proper tools. Get your oven preheated to 350. Have a baking sheet ready with some parchment paper so that the cookies don't stick. You're gonna want some cookie cutters. This set of nested cookie cutters is perfect because you're gonna want all different sizes. A piping bag fitted with a nice large tip that's round, and a rolling pin or a wine bottle if you don't have a rolling pin, and either a stand mixer or a hand electric mixer. Are you guys ready? Okay, let's do this. So first, grab a medium-sized bowl for all of your dry ingredients. And in this bowl, add 3 cups of all-purpose flour, I always like to mix up my dry ingredients first when I'm baking. It makes the process cleaner. You have less dishes to do because then you can use the same measuring spoons for the wet ingredients. You don't have to wash them off in between. And keep your flour on standby too, because when we roll out the sugar cookies, you're gonna wanna use the flour to dust your work surface so that the cookies don't stick. And when you're measuring out your flour, fluff it up first with your measuring cup to aerate it. That way you won't get too much flour. And then scoop it, pile it in, and level it off with your finger or a knife so that you have exactly 1 cup. Okay. Stick your flour aside, but again, don't let it go too far. And now grab your baking powder. And while I'm at the pantry, I'm also gonna get my vanilla extract and almond extract. Adding baking powder to your cookie dough is gonna help the cookies puff up in the oven, and that's gonna make the texture a little bit softer and fluffier. Add 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder. And 3/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt. It's always important to salt your sweets. That brings out all the flavors and it just tastes really good. And now give these dry ingredients a whisk to combine. It's important to get these combined because you do not want to get any large bits of baking powder or salt in a bite. If you've ever bitten into a cookie where the baking powder isn't fully incorporated, it's not fun. This would be an awesome activity for a holiday party. I love hosting cookie decorating parties. Bake all the cookies first and then get tons of frosting and decorations and stick them on the table, and people can just hang out and decorate cookies together and eat the cookies, and it's so much fun. Okay, how are your dry ingredients looking? Are they combined? Good. Grab your big bowl now. We can set this aside. And now add 1 cup of softened unsalted butter to your bowl. This is so much butter on this plate. This is for the frosting. And to this bowl, add 1 cup of sugar. And now grab your hand mixer and beat the butter and the sugar together until it's pale and fluffy. This will take a couple minutes. Every so often, you can stop and use your rubber spatula to scrape down the sides, and that's to make sure that all of the butter and the sugar gets incorporated. This cookie dough is just a basic sugar cookie dough. You can use this for any kind of cutout, even sandwich cookies or Linzer cookies. It's really delicious and super easy to make. Now, once your mixture is looking nice and fluffy, grab your egg. And crack your egg right in. And then also add 1½ teaspoons of vanilla extract. and then half a teaspoon of almond extract. Now, I love the flavor of almond extract. I could have it in every single thing and not get sick of it. Oh, it smells so good. If you're not wild about it, just use vanilla, that's fine. Now mix this until the egg and the extracts have combined into the butter and sugar. And now it's time to add our dry ingredients. So gradually add the flour mixture. Do it in batches just to make sure that it doesn't go flying everywhere in the kitchen. So add about 1/3 of it first. And now we'll mix that in. And start your mixer on low. If you put it on too high right off the bat, flour will be flying everywhere in your kitchen, and you don't want that. And once all the flour is combined, or most of it at least, you can add another 1/3 of the flour mixture. And again, mix it in. Can you smell that vanilla? It smells so good. I love sugar cookies, especially around the holidays. I like them even more than gingerbread cookies. Add the rest of your dry ingredients. And now mix this in. How is your dough looking? Okay, if it's looking crumbly, that's how it should look. Once everything is combined, I want you to stop your mixer, and then you can just use your hands to bring everything together into a dough. Doesn't it feel so nice and soft? Now, once your dough has come together like this, you can lose your big bowl. And now divide it in half. And that's because we're only really going to be working with half of the dough at once, and you want to keep the other half cold. You don't want it to overheat, otherwise it's going to be difficult to work with and cut out into your shapes. And if you wanted to prep this dough ahead of time, like 1 or 2 days, you could wrap it all in plastic wrap and keep it in the refrigerator. But right now, we're gonna be working with half, so keep half of it on your counter and grab some plastic wrap for the other half. So pat this out into a disc. It'll make it easier to roll out when the time comes to roll it out. And grab a piece of plastic wrap and wrap it tightly so that no air can get in. And now you can stick this in the refrigerator for later. So clear your work surface, sprinkle it with a little bit of flour so that the dough doesn't stick. And then you can also sprinkle the top with a little flour too. Pat it out, and then grab your rolling pin and roll it out until it's flat and about 1/4 inch thick. And the way that I like to roll it out is I'm using the weight of the rolling pin, and every so often I'm gonna rotate it just so that I'm making sure that it doesn't stick to the work surface, and also to ensure that I'm rolling it out evenly. How are you guys doing with your dough? Isn't this a fun, satisfying process? I love working with cookie dough. It's like working with clay. We're ready to cut out our circles. This dough is gonna be enough to do 2 of each of my different sizes of cookie cutters. So I'm gonna place my cookie cutter right up against the edge of the dough so that I can get the maximum amount of cookies. I'm going all the way around the edge, making sure to have minimal dough scraps. The less times that we re-roll the scraps, the better the texture of the cookies will be. If you overwork your dough, they might get a little tough. And if you don't have circles, you can use squares, you can use stars for this. You can really cut out any shapes that you want. Now, once you're done cutting out your shapes, grab an offset spatula. If you don't have a small offset spatula, just the smallest spatula you have, or even a butter knife, and use that to get underneath the cookie and then transfer it to a parchment-lined baking sheet. And when you're placing these on the baking sheet, allow at least 1 inch in between them, because that's gonna allow the cookies to bake evenly on all sides. Now these are ready to bake. Bake them at 350 for about 8 to 10 minutes until they're lightly golden around the edges. And while these bake, let's just clean up and then make our frosting. This frosting is a classic American buttercream. It is so easy to make and it's really rich and sweet. You ready? So grab the remaining softened butter and add that to your big bowl. And then also add 2 cups of powdered sugar. This is really the type of thing that you could just eyeball because it does not have to be exact. Now slowly turn on your mixer. Once the powdered sugar starts to incorporate into the butter, you can increase the speed. Once this is going, you can add a pinch of kosher salt, and this will help bring out all the flavors and just balance out that sweetness. I started making these a few years ago. I was going through a phase of making mini cakes all the time. Itsy bitsy cute little layer cakes. And then one day I started making the layers out of cookies, and they were so much fun. They were really stable and they were great for cookie swaps, and you actually get 5 cookies in one. So now they've become a tradition. And you can increase the speed. Once your frosting is looking smooth and creamy, you can add your vanilla and a little almond if you want. I'll add my vanilla, and then a little bit of almond. And those 2 flavors together are so delicious. And to me, they just scream holidays. Also grab some heavy cream. Heavy cream is gonna bring everything together and smooth it out and make the texture so much creamier. I'm gonna add a couple of tablespoons. And again, this is something that can be eyeballed too. And now I'll mix this all to combine. And if you don't have heavy cream, you can also use a tablespoon or 2 of whole milk. Now lastly, add your food coloring. We should use green because it's Christmas trees, and I like using this mossy green color. Add a few drops. You can always add more, but it's difficult to take away, so start with a little and then add more until you get the color that you want. How is your frosting looking? Are you smelling your cookies yet? Let's check on them. These are perfect. They are set. They're still pale, so I know they're gonna be a little soft. Okay, I'm gonna let these cool while I finish up my frosting. Now grab your piping bag that's fitted with the tip. And if you don't have a piping bag, you can use a zip top bag with the corner snipped off. Fold the sides down, and I always find it easiest to put it in a big cup or a big measuring cup like this, and that way you'll have both hands free to fill your bag. And grab your spatula and scrape all the frosting into the piping bag. Just plop it right in. We can lose the food coloring and the extracts too. Whenever I'm decorating, I like to have a clean surface. I don't want to have any distractions. Now, grab some serving plates, or I'm gonna use cute little cake stands. Aren't these adorable? Extra special for the holidays. Grab your decorations, so some sprinkles or candies. We are ready to assemble. So fold up the top of your piping bag and smush all the frosting down toward the tip. And as you're doing so, give the top a twist so that the frosting doesn't come out the other end. Add a little pop of frosting to your cake stands so that the cookies don't move around. This is gonna act as your glue. Grab the biggest cookies, stick them down. And then add a layer of frosting. nice thick layer of frosting. And then smoosh on the next biggest cookie. Like that. And now do it with the remaining cookies. Just like that. These are going to be really big cookie cakes. Delicious. We'll go right on top. And the last layer of our little cartoon Christmas trees. And then you can finish with a layer of frosting. And then, of course, sprinkles to decorate. Oh, we should use a yellow ball to act as the star of the tree. Yeah. Oh, do you guys all have sprinkle tweezers in the kitchen? You should. It'll help with this. And just decorate your Christmas trees however you want. Have fun with it. How cute are these? They look just like little cartoon Christmas trees. Okay, I'm gonna taste one. They're soft and sweet, and the frosting has the perfect amount of almond in it. This is just how a Christmas cookie should taste. Okay, sorry, Santa. I'm not saving any for you.
What I'm making for dessert is my ultimate ginger cookie. They're filled with spice, they're moist, they're delicious, and who doesn't like cookies? So the first thing I need is flour. I need 2 1/4 cups of flour. I always just lighten it with a cup and just level it off without tamping it down. And I'm gonna do this all in a sifter. So I'm gonna sift all of these ingredients together, all the flour, spices. 2 1/4. Perfect. 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And next, spices. First, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I use really good cinnamon. 1 1/2 of cloves. That's a lot of cloves. They're really spicy. I know people think ginger cookies only have ginger in them, but I love when there are multiple flavors and it just sort of hits you different ways. 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger and 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. And the key is the balance, so that one spice just doesn't stand out. It sort of hits you layer after layer after layer. 1/4 teaspoon of salt, just to make everything taste better. I know it sounds odd to put salt in sweet things, but you put them in savory things to bring out the flavors, and you put them in sweet things for exactly the same reason. And then just put it through the sifter. This is what the sifter is about. It actually mixes it, but if there are any little sort of pieces in the spices or the flour, it takes it out. Okay, that's the dry ingredients. Now for the wet ingredients. So the first thing I need is a cup of brown sugar. All of these ingredients add to the moistness and the spiciness of these cookies. 1/4 cup of oil. Use any kind of flavorless oil that you have. 1/3 cup of molasses. Molasses is actually the concentrated juice of sugar cane, so it's very sweet and very flavorful. You want to choose unsulfured molasses. It's the best quality. Smells good. I'm just going to beat these together for a minute while I get the egg ready. I want the sugar and the oil to be light and fluffy. Okay, next the egg. Got 1 egg. Okay, that's ready. I'm just going to put the egg in. Now I'm going to lower the speed and put all the dry ingredients slowly, just to make sure they get combined well. That's mixed perfectly. And now for the surprise, crystallized ginger. I love crystallized ginger. There's something about the heat and the sweetness of it that is just fantastic. So I'm gonna do 1 1/4 cups of chopped crystallized ginger. Okay, right into the mixture. Give it a little stir, and that's done. Now I'm just gonna scoop it out and roll it in sugar and bake it. It's gonna be so delicious. I usually use for cookies, I use this ice cream scoop. It ensures that they're all the same size. Roll it in my hands, and then roll it in the sugar. And what this does is make a nice crinkly crust on it, and it makes the whole cookie sparkle. So right on the pan, just flatten it out with your hand. This is gonna be a great dessert. Into the oven, 350 degrees for 12 minutes, and we're gonna have the most delicious ultimate ginger cookies for dinner. The ultimate ginger cookies.